So we have two special guests, Alejandro, who actually founded a company called Baobab, which is a personal care brand, and also Mima, which is a sustainable textiles brand. They do like hand towels and aprons and napkins made with upcycled denim. And he's also the CEO of Luum, which is sort of like a brand accelerator that connects social and environmental impact brands with e-commerce and helps them to grow in that channel. So Alejandro, thank you for being here.
Thank you. Happy to be here and nice to meet everyone.
Awesome. And then we also have Jamie Roller, who is the Associate Director of Growth Channels at Dr. Squatch. She started her career as a strategy consultant and then spent the last 8 years working with leading online retailers and brands, mostly in the beauty and personal care categories, building and executing commercial go-to-market strategies. So if you haven't seen Dr. Squatch on Amazon specifically, then you probably haven't been on Amazon. It's all over the place. So thank you, Jamie, for being here and sharing your expertise with us today.
Thanks, Kate. Excited to be here and great to meet you all.
Awesome. Well, again, if anybody has any questions throughout, please feel free to add them in the chat or raise your hand, and we'll make sure that we answer those along the way. But I do have a couple questions to get us started with. So first of all, I'll ask Alejandro, why e-commerce? I know you've worked building brands and growing them in different channels. So why should brands focus on e-commerce? Like, how important is it to keep that in the mix?
Yeah, so I think that's a great question. First, I'm from Guatemala, so being from a small country with a small market, if you're making a specific niche product or premium product, you're going to find a small market. It's going to be limited. And we started with the need to export, and where else but the US, the biggest market in the world. So when we started trying to enter that market around 10 years ago, we saw that getting to retail was just extremely hard. And then Amazon definitely changed the game of e-commerce, I think, by making it much easier. So I'm not going to say it's going to be easy now because it's changed a lot, but today it's definitely easier than tomorrow, I think. But it's still a market where you can reach, you can reach an audience directly without really having to go through brokers and distributors and, all that chain of that requires to bring a product logistically from one place, from your shop to someone's home, right? So e-commerce is an incredible way to find customers for your products.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And Jamie, with Dr. Squatch, I mean, how much of the sales are through e-commerce? Is that like a really big channel for them?
Yeah, e-commerce currently makes up the majority of our sales, and that's because we have a really big direct-to-consumer presence. That's how we became established in the market. I think e-commerce has always been a really important way for us to reach customers kind of where they want to shop, and not only where they want to shop, but also like customers who are native to social media. It's really easy for us to just reach them like where they're already like browsing and searching, and just like hit them there with something that's really relevant for them, and really make a name for ourselves as a brand on their, like get them to know us like on digital platforms, and then convert them on those same platforms. So e-commerce has always been a really important channel for us, even though we kind of did it the other way around. We started on e-commerce and we're now growing in retail, but I think we will always see e-commerce as an important channel for us, and with that, marketplaces like Amazon.
Yeah, it's interesting because Alejandro is talking about being able to kind of almost cut out the middleman and get directly to the customers, and then you're talking about getting directly to the customers where they already are. And so, yeah, it makes sense. You're looking at kind of a shorter connection point, where if you're going through retail, like you said, it's, a lot of different steps and layers that are involved. So you mentioned Amazon, do you think Amazon is really the end all be all, or what are some of the most effective e-commerce channels? Like if somebody was getting started, what would be maybe a good one to start with?
Alejandro, do you want to take this?
Sure. So for us, we definitely have worked. We do Shopify stores. We work direct to consumer. We work on Walmart, Etsy, and different channels. But I think Amazon has just really been a great channel for us. The FBA program is just amazing, because then you send inventory to Amazon. They distribute it across the country throughout their different distribution centers, and get the product really fast to customers. If you had, like, we have a 3PL in Dallas, Texas. So if you want to reach a customer in the Northeast or Northwest, it's gonna take much longer. It's gonna be more expensive than how Amazon manages it. So you also need to do, we think that I would say it's at maybe 10% of the energy you need to spend on D2C is what you need to spend on Amazon. It's very focused, it's very technical and specific, but once you really learn how to do it, and it is a way to reach a lot of people, and not just in the US, but in North America, Europe, Asia, etc. Right? So yeah, I think for us, Amazon is definitely a great channel to be in, not the only one we're in. But yeah.
It seems like there's just so much robustness behind it that you can, include the ads and the sponsored tagging, like all these different keywords. Like there's a lot of depth to the Amazon platform compared to some others, I think.
Yeah, I'll add to that and just say, like, currently today, 2/3 of shoppers are starting their search for products on Amazon. If you are building a brand and you're doing any advertising online, once you've started to establish a brand, it really does make sense to be on Amazon, just to capture any incremental demand that's on that customers are going to Amazon for. It's just such a big platform. I'm sure many of you use Amazon today as a consumer, because of the convenience and because they have literally everything that you could ever want. And I think if you think like a customer in that way, you'll very quickly come to the conclusion that, like, if you are building a brand, at some point, once you've scaled past a certain amount of sales on other channels, it makes sense just to be on Amazon to capture that demand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point, because I think, we work with a lot of impact driven brands, and sometimes Amazon is like a little bit of a, I don't really want to go there kind of a feeling. And I think that it's a good time to remember that you, as the founder of the company, or the, marketing or e-commerce specialist, are not the company, and you are not the customer. And so, your customers are likely, like you said, 60+% are going to be shopping, or at least looking for products on Amazon. So even though it may not align fully with what your values are, maybe it's still worth it to reach those customers. What are your thoughts on that, Alejandro? I know you work with a lot of like impact driven brands.
Yeah, so we're definitely all into impact. We're a B Corp. I'm on the board of Sistema B Central America Caribbean. Like, I really believe that the market has the power to make changes in our communities and on our planet in general, So I have spoken to lots of founders. I wouldn't say lots, but to a few founders who definitely are very critical to Amazon. And I totally get it. Yes, definitely there's some areas that Amazon needs to work on and improve, because they always will prioritize on the customer. That's their thing. And the customer likes to get things cheap and fast. And that's why I think some of the criticism comes from what we like to say, and what we always actually believe and say is that, I mean, people are going to buy their with or without our better for the world products. They are still going to buy there. So do we prefer to, you know, I think Dr. Squatch, for example, is an amazing brand that is making natural products with no chemicals and so on, or, you know, it's just a great brand that's doing good things. Is it, you know, it's not a Unilever, or I'm not nothing against those huge conglomerates, but there is definitely a space and people are looking for, you know, more real brands. So I think it's a supply thing for us. Like, we see it like that. People are going to be there buying products. I think Amazon, just going back a bit, is also, it's going to depend a lot on the category of the products that you're making, but usually, you know, consumer goods, Amazon will be a great channel. Maybe a fashion item, maybe you won't, high fashion, maybe it's not going to be the ideal channel, right? But in general, I think in this space, at least with the brands that Brand Pollinators works with, it's a great place to be. And Amazon does have a lot of programs like the Climate Pledge Friendly, the small business. We're trying to see if we can do something about B Corps within the platform. We've been having talks with different B Corps that would like to see more of an Amazon B Corp space, etc. But yeah, I mean, if we don't bring it to market, then I'm made in China by who knows what type of factory product will. So yeah.
Totally. Yeah, I like +1 for this perspective. Like, I can tell you at Dr. Squatch, our mission is to, we're very mission based. Our mission is to give guys better personal care products that are better for the environment, better for their skin. And we are going straight up against brands like Dove. And again, like, not to say anything bad about the Unilevers of this world, but like, there's no way that we would be able to be converting customers from those products that are potentially harmful to a product that's better and better for them if we weren't on a platform like Amazon. So of course there's those externalities that we have to be aware of. But if you balance it up against the benefit of just getting in front of more customers, it feels like a win. So I think it's a personal decision ultimately, but if you consider like the net impact of growing your brand to your company, but also to your mission, I think you have to consider that some of these platforms are just like really have the scale that can help you get there.
Yeah, that's such a great point by both of you, for sure. I was like jotting it down. If we don't bring it to market, then one of the other companies will, and that's such a great point. So we have a question. Kimberly said, how much of your efforts and budget are focused on Amazon versus your website? So do you have sort of a rule of thumb there, or what would you say in terms of like that balance?
On our team, I mean, it's obviously heavily dependent on the scale of Amazon to our total business, but I will say that two things influence it. Firstly, Amazon is a much more efficient channel in terms of spend than our other digital channels. So our customer acquisition costs on Amazon are about 1/3 of what they are on our D2C channels. So we spend less, but we actually acquire more customers, not more overall, but we acquire relatively more customers on Amazon, even though it's a much smaller fraction of our total spend. And as a result, we think about spend a little bit differently on Amazon because we try to be a lot more efficient there. We also have a much leaner team on Amazon because, you know, we don't need, because all the, like, everything kind of happens in platform. We at Dr. Squatch, we have agencies that help us because I think it's important to have some specialists who know how to run the business. And then we have a very small like team of about 2 people running the direct Amazon's like strategy and operations, as well as like obviously the whole team that supports us with inventory and fulfillment and finance. But I would say that it's a much leaner team than the rest of the business, for sure.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Alejandro? Do you have any thoughts?
Yeah,
on
we work with many brands, so it depends a lot on the brand strategy. And some brands that we work with, 100% is Amazon. Others are much more, I would say, even 75% D2C reliant. So it depends a lot on the strategy, on the category. We work with lots of different products. So I mean, it's super interesting what Jamie you're saying, because it's definitely a brand like Dr. Squatch, which is already on a growth and high growth and scale phase. We work with much smaller brands, and it depends a lot, but definitely Amazon is just a great place to be, and it's an important place to be. What we've seen also is that if you start on Amazon, you also need to have a presence outside of it. And especially if it's a CPG brand, the more retail that you have, the retail outlets, the more that Amazon will grow organically, because it becomes a convenience channel. You're always trying to get that subscribe and save, so you don't have to go and acquire the next purchase, but especially if it's a consumable. But yeah, for us, it's I would say in general, we're like around 80% Amazon, but some brands are not like that as the norm.
Mm-hmm. And so for those smaller brands, like what should they have in place before launching on Amazon? I mean, I know you talked about some brands that are really only focused there, but also you kind of need to have a presence outside of that. So, I mean, obviously having your own website up and running, you have any other thoughts on what brands should have in place?
So yeah, that's a great question. We get that asked a lot, and what we say is, I think that you have to have a great product that's really, you have to ask yourself, I think, does the world really need a new whatever product, a new water bottle? You know, does the world really need this product that I am so passionate about making? And if yes, why? And then maybe it's because it has an incredible feature and it's really unique, and you're patenting a new process. And then, I mean, you're probably going to get a lot of success if you are able to patent a product. I mean, which is on the spectrum would be like all the way at the end, like you're really creating something that didn't exist in the world. However, that's very hard to come by, and it's more of like an exaggeration. But then maybe it's the ingredients that you're using, or even who's making and how they're making the product. Is it a community based in Central America that is gonna have a new future, and you're gonna go find that niche that's interested in that? Or are you using an oil that's coming from a certain plant that might be great for your hair? Or like it's just a lot of creating something that's very unique, so that'll just make it so much easier. It's also a matter of when you're launching, because I'm sure it's not the same to launch today than 10 years ago, and it's not going to be the same 10 years from now. It's just getting so much more crowded. So number one is that having a great product. It's quite obvious, but I just wanted to really, I think it's important to focus on that. And then definitely, if it's e-commerce, you're not going to be able to touch it or smell it, or you're going to have to see it all through your eyes. So great photo, great video, great copy. I would invest everything I can on that, because that's where really is going to move the needle. We've seen it in so many different cases. So, and we've done it ourselves. We're also brand developers. We've created, like you mentioned, Mima, for example, from scratch. And by saving a few bucks, a year later we had to reinvest and do everything again. all our photos, all our graphic design. So I think that's an area that is very important to focus on.
Mm-hmm.
And that is going to also help you share that story of us, why you're unique or special.
Yeah, absolutely. So I noticed, Jamie, with Dr. Squatch, you're using some video, a lot of really large images. Like, do you have any insights on what's best to focus on when you're creating those digital assets?
Yeah. When you think about creating digital assets, like I always think, what stands out to you most as a consumer? Like, get really like basic with it. When I think something like 60 to 70% of customers minimum are shopping on mobile. So the bigger the image, the better. The less white space on your hero product image, the better. You should always have videos on your products. It helps both with ranking, organic ranking, so your products just come up more frequently in search, as well as like if a customer does scroll through your images and they see a video, they do tend to engage, and it increases conversion rates when they do click on your products. I would like if you have a look at what we do in our branded videos, you'll see like we've tested out a couple things, and some things work really well. You always want to have a little bit of text because customers don't listen to the background noise, and really call out the features and benefits are key for any type of image. So the first image on Amazon is always just a product image with a white background, and that I would say have it as zoomed in as possible. And then the next images, you should be calling out the benefits for the customer. Like if it's something scented, call out what scent it is, make it like so that they can almost feel it in their hands. What I like to do when I'm launching a new product is I like to go through the top 3 or 5 competitors in my niche and pull together all of their product images and videos and see what they're doing well, and then try to do it 10% better than all of them. Just take the learnings and try to improve. I think that's a really good way of just making sure you stand out in the space. And I agree with Alejandro, like if you're going to do this, you have to just look great, because when a customer searches, all they're seeing is a list of search results. So you want to make sure you stand out and get customers to click on your listing and then convert.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. It's interesting about looking at what competitors are doing too. I was curious if that was part of your strategy, because it's a very crowded space on Amazon now. So you want to see what other people are doing and how you can kind of stand out against that. So like on those lines, what are some other good like optimization strategies in terms of I mean, I'm not super knowledgeable about Amazon, but I know there's the ability to do keywords and there's the PPC. Like what are some things that you think are really hard hitting optimization strategies?
I'll give a few answers here, and then I'd love to hear Alejandro's thoughts. The 3 things we tend to focus on is merchandising, price, and ads. Although price, is part of merchandising, but you can actually do A/B tests straight on Amazon. They're not as flexible as you would maybe be able to do on your D2C side, but you can A/B test product image and title. And how we do that is we'll try a couple different product images that we just do in like Adobe, and then just test them for a couple of weeks and see which one performs better. And then with keywords, we use a tool called Helium 10. You can also use Jungle Scout, and you can just basically search for a couple of different products in your niche and see what keywords they're coming up for. And you want to make sure that you have all of those keywords in your title. And then you can just make a really rich product title and A/B test that against another couple of your standard product title and see which one does better. And we've actually seen some significant improvements in total revenue just from those changes. We also like to test price. We do this at least once a year. I think brands are often hesitant to raise prices, but like we all have to make margin. We have to keep ourselves going. And I think you'd be surprised at how inelastic customers can be. So what we do is we just raise price and test whether net profitability is accretive if we've raised price. And then the third thing we do is PPC. So we use an agency for PPC. You can do it in-house, but we'll test different strategies, basically like bidding on either very popular keywords or long tail keywords, and testing different bidding approaches to see where we make the most incremental sales and drive the most traffic. And one thing that I will call out that's really important for us in this is new to brand. We're currently in a big push to get lots of new to brand customers, and Amazon has just recently launched Amazon Marketing Cloud, which is a tool that gives you really great insights into how many new customers are shopping and all sorts of different insights. And I would like encourage brands to lean into Amazon Marketing Cloud as soon as they can, because it's really, really handy.
Wow. Yeah, that's awesome. What are your thoughts, Alejandro?
No, I love hearing all that. And absolutely, I think Amazon is just changing so much, and they're just improving. We also use Helium 10, definitely great to use. So the way we see to optimize it, there's basically two objectives. One is discoverability, get discovered within that. The beauty about Amazon is that it already has the traffic. When you're doing D2C, it's really hard to get that traffic unless you have an amazing following in social, or you're really good at social ads or TikTok, whatever, Meta, Google ads. But getting traffic is really hard. Within Amazon, you already have that. But how do you get discovered in that insanely big platform? So it's a lot about it's all about the keywords. So Amazon is really a search engine where you buy stuff. So if you get so some of those keywords are very competitive and huge with lots of searches, but very expensive to click on. So we really do a lot of long tail SEO, lots and lots of keywords in the back end, of course in the title, anywhere we can on the different parts of a listing, and then we do different PPC campaigns to just get discovered and immediately see. Well, not immediately, but then you can get to know like which are the keywords that are working or not. Also, which products are maybe are complementary to what you're offering, and if someone's looking for such and such product, we can also do some PPC there to get discovered. And the second, apart from discoverability, is then convertibility. Once people saw us, how are we going to convert to sales? And definitely price is super important, especially in some products more than others, some categories. The profile picture to get the clicks is extremely important. We do lots of A/B testing as well. And there's some hacks there that you can do. And for example, if you have a packaging and if you have a label in your profile picture, you can just try to change the words. If you were, let's say, natural soap, and then just change it to organic soap and see which one gets more clicks. And you can do that just on a graphic design. Lots of stuff like that. But and of course then the story. And we do compete for value, not for price, in all our products, all our brands. We're not gonna compete with price. It's impossible unless you're a factory, especially in Asia. It's just so hard to compete with the costs and prices there. And the quality of the products that are coming in from Asia is just improving very fast. The products from Asia are great now. And so it's all about the story of what we're doing, the photos. We love to share the story of the founders. People connect with that, tell the story. So it's a lot of that to optimize. And what we've seen happen is that we think sometimes we get a bit artistic, and creative with our brands, and we think it's beautiful, and it is, but we A/B test everything. So sometimes not so good looking image is gonna get more clicks and more conversions than a beautiful, very minimalistic one. For D2C, I think very clean very clean imaging and messaging is what works more. For Amazon, for some reason, it works a lot to have lots of like infographics and lots of words out there, and it doesn't look great, but it converts. So that's something that we always talk to the founders we work with. And yeah, of course, I would love to. I'll be happy to share some of the brands we work with, and so you can see some of the work and what I'm talking about. We work very closely with different design teams, and it's been great to go throughout these years to be really experimenting a lot and learning that each, like social media, Facebook will not be the same to Instagram or to TikTok. The same as with e-commerce. Like Amazon will not be the same as Walmart or Etsy or your D2C store. So yeah, that's a lot. And I love what Jamie said, that merchandising and price and ads, those three columns and verticals are so important for us as well.
And one thing I was curious about is like, a lot of the brands in our community are trying to reach these conscientious consumers who care about the quality, like you mentioned. And so is Amazon a place to highlight those features and call attention to that? Or I know we also talked about the idea of attracting new customers and kind of bringing about some awareness. Like how much do you lean on the story of the impact and the value and the quality, rather than, just kind of the basic information about the product and the features?
Yeah, we have a great example. For example, Wakami is a brand that makes handmade bracelets in rural Guatemala, working with women artisans. They've been growing for over 15 years, doing so much impact in the communities where they work with. And when we took over their Amazon account, they used to see it as a channel where they would just basically sell, have special sales, and just when they have overstock, it's a channel to get rid of some inventory. They never saw it as a central channel, part of their strategy. And the first thing we did there was, no, we need to tell the story. You are doing an amazing work. They're fair trade certified, B Corp certified, so on. We need to tell that story. It's definitely a fashion brand because it's bracelets, but we need to tell the story. And immediately we got incredible results just by doing that. So it's also always going to vary brand to brand, but people love stories in any channel. So it's just the way you tell them might vary, but I would definitely go and all in on telling the story on Amazon as well. And you have Amazon Live, Amazon Posts, the Amazon Store. Not many people go there, but if someone actually clicks on it, it's important to have that story there. You can also use the A+ content. In some cases, we've tested to add a photo of the founder. Does it increase or not the conversion rate? This is all a numbers game, really. So, yeah, and it does in some cases.
Did you have any thoughts on that, Jamie, about reaching more conscientious consumers, or are you looking to reach more mainstream consumers?
We're looking to do both. We're very conscious of making sure we maintain our natural image. It's obviously a very core tenet of our brand. But having said that, like, to go back to what I said before, I think our goal is to grow and to be a leading men's personal care brand. And I think it does depend a bit on the mission of your company, but like our company is basically to make natural mainstream. I think that's one way to put it. So, we are what we want to do is get the average guy interested in like better for him, better for the planet, personal care products. And in order to do that, we need to find a way of talking about it in a way that's palatable to the everyday guy. not watering down our message about natural products, but also like making sure that it's relatable for the everyday guy. I think what you'll find is that there are every month there's a new trend on Amazon, and a lot of them, and in the last couple of years, the naturals, sustainable, like keyword trends have really taken off. And I think there's, you know, without sounding like too much of a capitalist, but I think that there's a lot, you know, like you can really like lean into this. I think like the customers are really looking for these products, and like Alejandro said, like it's about building a story. It's about telling them like what your product does, why it's good for people. And I think it's really meeting customers where they are, but giving them like the reason of why they should buy it, and leaning into some of their natural like curiosity about sustainable and natural brands. I think I've seen it work well on a number of brands I've worked with, and I don't think the trend's going away. And I think you should absolutely be leaning into it. It's very powerful to build a brand that's sustainable. And the last thing I'll say on that is, as we've both kind of alluded to, Amazon is becoming hugely competitive. I don't think that should scare anyone off. I think what it means is that a brand with a really strong message is 10 times more powerful on the platform. You just have to put in the time and effort to build that brand, both and as Alejandro said, like both on and off platform, because what you ideally want to do is get customers who come to the platform, find your brand, know your brand, and immediately convert because they recognize who you are. So that's kind of how I would think about it. Like most of the folks here are already thinking about doing something high impact, and I would encourage them to think about like doing how to do that on a massive platform like Amazon, because you can actually stand out from like the millions of other sellers who just have a generic product. It's actually a pretty powerful story.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's really encouraging to hear how you guys are leveraging that. Any questions from anyone here? I don't want to take up the whole time with my list, but I think we've covered some really amazing insights so far. Feel free to jump in if you have any questions. Oh, I see you've already got a new customer here. Rich is buying the Star Wars collection. And the toothpaste from one of our other attendees. So perfect. Thanks, Rich. That's awesome. Okay. Any other specific questions? I know it's really nice to have these two different perspectives here, because Alejandro is working with smaller brands that are really focused on the impact, and then Jamie's working with a much larger brand that is focused. I love that, like converting the average Joe into a conscientious shopper. So that's some really good, like two different angles here that we're working for Amazon and other D2C channels. I mean, actually, one of the things, since nobody's chimed in, one of the things I wanted to ask about too was, Alejandro, you mentioned Etsy, and I think that's a really interesting place. I mean, what kind of products would you want to see using Etsy as an e-commerce channel?
Yeah, so Etsy is very specific. First, it's gonna be handmade. In general, that's what Etsy likes. So Mima is on Etsy. It's definitely a much smaller channel for us, but it's been interesting because we have gotten some wholesale accounts there as well. So somebody finds a product there. If I'm not mistaken, it's 80% women, or a big number like that. Etsy was a very small channel, and the pandemic made it really exploded its size. Still very small compared to Amazon, of course, but it is an important channel, and it's very, I would say an interesting fact there is that the percentage of reviews that we get or to sales versus Amazon is much higher. So on Amazon is almost no one will leave a review. It's a very, very small percentage of orders generate reviews, and Etsy is much higher. So that's interesting. We have a lot of reviews there. So we use it a lot for feedback. That's something that we do a lot also in general. When you were asking about competitors, we definitely look at competitors to see trends, definitely, to see keywords, the most important part, I would say, and then absolutely to get to see the reviews. Like I think it's pretty much free. If you can find 3, 4, 5 competitors that you like, that you think are benchmarks, just go into the reviews, read the critical and the positive reviews, and see what people are loving or hating about a product. And if you can incorporate that into your product, that's great. And if you can even maybe you can change a scent or a color, because that's what you're finding that people are liking. That's important. On Etsy, it's hard to know who's selling more. You don't have a helium-10 for Etsy, but you can go to the reviews and it'll show you which item the review is for, and you can get an idea of which are the products that are selling most from a brand. So it's going to be handmade, usually durable. Mima, textiles for home and kitchen. Wakami, we're relaunching their Etsy soon. Handmade bracelets. Jewelry is really good on Etsy. We're now working on a new handmade wooden made products brand. Etsy will definitely be important there. So it's more about not getting the traction, and it's not about getting the traction in the actual sales there, but it is a great way to communicate with customers, even much more than Amazon. Amazon is a bit more impersonal. D2C is the most, of course, but Etsy, I would say, could be like a middle channel for that.
Yeah, I feel like it's a much different, like you mentioned, 80% women shopping there. And I think, I've used Etsy for many years, and a lot of times I go there when I'm looking for a gift for someone. And so maybe products that are a good gift would do well there, because like you said, jewelry, bracelets, that kind of thing. That is a good spot to go searching for things that are handmade. Okay. Here's a question from Michael. What's a good margin for trying to become profitable in a decent amount of time? Oh boy, this is a tough one. Is the bottom line challenging in this environment, even with an impact focus and a unique brand that connects to their consumer base and healthy top line? I know that Dr. Squatch spent some money to create their early videos that went viral, but they were already grossing $200,000 a month, I believe. And I believe it was those videos that helped them launch to a higher number. I guess I am curious as to how much it costs generally to be able to survive in the challenging environment and get to profitability. And are investors always necessary?
I'll give this a quick answer. I don't think there's a benchmark. I think brands have done it in all sorts of different timescales. I think, if you're a consumer goods or any type of consumer product, I think it is incredibly challenging to grow, to be profitable and grow profitably. And I think it's like, there are brands who bootstrap and do it that way, and I think it's tough, and it's obvious, like, you have proponents for bootstrapping and proponents for using investors' money. My short answer is, like, there's no benchmark, but I think the brands that I've seen that have been the most successful have focused on profitability as early as possible. It's not so much how long it takes you to get there, it's, are you laser focused on getting there from day one, as opposed to top line growth at all costs? And I think it's a very different mentality. And whether you bootstrap, whether you get VC money or investors money, I think it's either way. Like that mentality is timeless. I don't know, Alejandro, I would be curious to get your thoughts. I think you have probably better perspective on this.
No, I agree that profitability is key. We're here it's business, right? So even if we're doing a lot of impact, we need to be business first. And it also varies a lot on lifetime value for a brand. For example, Mima has a low reorder rate. How often do you buy an apron? You're not going to buy one every month. That's for sure. So we need to make a profit on the first sale that we make. Definitely. So if not, there's no point of Mima existing. As an example, there's other brands like that as well. We work with My We Care that makes clothing for patients. So we hope that people will not buy again, because it's a product that's going to be used if you're going through cancer therapy or you're rehabilitating on a shoulder surgery. So it's not intended to be a long lifetime value brand or product. However, if we're selling Don't Worry low sugar snacks, it's a brand that we work with from Mexico. The reorder rate is super high. If you like a product like that, you're gonna subscribe probably. That's what we want, but you buy a lot of it. So we are willing to lose on the first order because we know that a percentage is gonna reorder again. So if you're doing a consumable, a CPG brand, it's very different game, right? So if you're a CPG brand and you know that a percentage is gonna reorder, Dr. Squatch, I love the soap, I'm gonna buy it again. People, some products, usually you like to change brands, but sometimes you stick to a brand for long term. So then you're willing to spend more on the first acquisition. So maybe, and that's why CPG is so expensive as well. Not only because you have these huge Amazon native brands that have been around for 10 plus years, but also you have the immense, multinationals like P&G and so on. So they have so much money, and then you have these VC funded brands. We're starting to work with a drinks brand from New York, and it's an amazing brand, soda cans, but it's such a saturated category, and we're competing with VC funded brands. We were looking at that yesterday. Two of our benchmarks raised over $40 million in VC capital. So, and then you're competing with Sprite, because they, even if it doesn't have anything to do with our product, they are ranking for the keywords we're going after. So Amazon is a keyword-based channel. It's important to always remember that. And Sprite is a competitor for us for those keywords. So but yeah, in general, I think it's important to have a very clear product, a very clear strategy, and go out there. And I think it's important to know that you can do it on your own for sure, and or you can go and look for a specialist, right? That like Jamie mentioned, but if you're not making money in the long run, for us, it's indispensable that our brands are making money. If not, it's going to be a very short-term relationship,
And I will, like, one thing to add is just like Alejandra's points about LTV and what we call payback, which is what Alejandro referred to, which is just like how quickly you pay back a customer's acquisition, is basically our North Star metric. I think a lot of consumer brands wait too long into their history to start measuring these metrics. I think they're really powerful metrics because they basically tell you like how profitable are you on a customer basis. And I think brands would really behoove brands to start looking at those metrics early and accurately and using them as like real good gauges of how effectively they're marketing and selling to customers and their profitability. And remember that LTV should be looked at net of all costs, something that also brands tend to forget to do.
Yeah,
I just sent oh, sorry. Just a quick. I added a link here on the chat. It's the FBA calculator. So if you go on Amazon and you can look for a product that you're interested in or that seems it's similar to yours, you can calculate the cost structure on it, the FBA fees, and so on. I think it's a very useful free tool that Amazon has out there.
Nice. Thanks for sharing that. I also shared the link to one of our previous community calls where we talked with somebody who bootstrapped her brand to be an international brand. And she had some great thoughts on kind of how to decide to take investor money and that kind of thing too. So I dropped that link in the chat there as well. Does anyone have any other questions? I know we're getting close to the end of our time here. I want to make sure we cover any questions you all have. No? Okay. All right. Well, it's been so great talking with both of you, and I appreciate so much the insights you shared today. I think there is a lot of valuable information coming from both angles. So that's great to have you. And if people want to learn more, if they have questions, what's the best way to reach you?
You can find me on LinkedIn, Jamie Roller, very easy.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Jamie's
me too.
very active on LinkedIn, so she's always sharing great nuggets. You're on there as well, Alejandro. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my email's there as well. I just on the chat if anyone wants to reach out. Happy to look at any listings. If you're already selling on Amazon, we always love to share some experiences. So feel free to reach out. And I absolutely love Dr. Squatch. Baobab is a brand that we started in Guatemala 10 years ago. And we make natural soaps. And Dr. Squatch has been definitely on our radar for a long time.
Been watching their keywords.
I mean, these guys are just killing it.
Alejandra.
They're just killing it. It's just such an incredible brand. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I'm so glad to have you both here. I shared my email in the comments as well. So if you want to reach out to me specifically about anything we talked about today or any other recommendations, suggestions, questions about future community calls, happy to chat with you. You can go to brandpollinators.com, sign up for our weekly email where we send out insights and reminders about calls like this. As well as connections to accelerators and grants and all kinds of stuff. So please sign up there if you're not already on our email list. And thank you all so much for coming. It was great to have you on today. Thanks, Jamie. Thanks, Alejandro.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank
Great
you,
being on.
Kate.
Great meeting you all.